Government contracting is not hard, but many believe it is. You just got to find the process and work the process. And middleman is not a viable business strategy, although many believe that it is. And the strategy seems very appealing, but the long-term execution is just non-existent. Welcome to my channel. My name is Curtis A. Merriweather Jr., but you can call me Dr. Kurt. Now, the goal of this channel is to educate entrepreneurs and help entrepreneurs overcome common business challenges. And the way we do this is through education, consultation, and training support services. Now, our channel is unique because it's based on 26 plus years of progressive experience in the government contracting space. As many of you know, my very first job was government contractor in high school. And so today, the goal of this channel is to lower your learning curve. So I want you to leverage my experience, my advanced education, and my lessons learned to accelerate your success on your government contracting journey. Now, there's a URL on the screen, 8figuregovcon.com. If you have not been there, I definitely encourage you to go to our website, take a look around, and look at our course offerings. We have two flagship programs. That's our 8-figure government contracting mastery 5X program bundle. This is for both new as well as seasoned entrepreneurs. You don't have to have any prior business experience to take advantage of that program and find extreme value. Also, if you're a seasoned entrepreneur, but you're new to the government contracting space, that class is going to be value added. We're going to help you with how to incorporate, how to form corporations from the ground up, as well as how to do your marketing artifacts, stakeholder identification, engagement management, and the like. So go check that out at your leisure. And the second course that we have is our government contracting for barbers and cosmetologists. Just as the title states, how to do government contracting as a barber or cosmetology professional. Okay. Now, if you want to go directly to our course store library, the URL is on the screen. And in the course store library, you can either do a la carte or you can do the program bundles that I just mentioned. And you can even schedule a strategy session using that same link. So hopefully you'll take a look, and I'm sure you'll find something that'll help assist you on your government contracting journey. All right. Now, today, if you have not already, I want you to like, I want you to share, and I want you to smash the subscribe button. So that way, as we curate new content, you'll receive a notification. So don't forget to hit the notification bell. As new content comes online, you'll receive a notification so you can stay apprised of any time I release a new video. And I work to release videos on a weekly basis. They come out between Thursdays and Saturdays usually. So definitely stay tuned in to the channel. Okay. I have a great topic for you guys today. Now that we got some of the preliminaries out of the way. And what I want to talk about today is I want to talk about how to avoid common government contracting misconceptions. There's a lot of information on the internet, on YouTube, and various social media platforms. So today, I want to talk about some common myths, some common misconceptions, and I'll also give some practical anecdotes that you should be thinking about and considering in your government contracting process. So let's talk about common government contracting misconceptions today. And the very first government contracting misconception that we're going to address today is going to be middleman is a valuable business strategy. This is a common, let me repeat, a common misconception. Now, I've done a couple of videos on middleman, and I've tried to stay away from this topic, but I keep getting questions on this topic. So as of to date, I have made 2 different videos on middleman. One was an interview Q&A style with myself and Mr. Guy Timberlake. And I made a second video shortly. So if you go through the YouTube catalog, my YouTube catalog, you'll find those videos. The second and the most recent video that you may not have seen yet is the 5 reasons to avoid the middleman trap. Tips to follow. It's the name of that video. It was a few weeks ago. So I'm going to give you some additional topics or some additional points, some additional ideas, perspective regarding middleman is not a viable business strategy, although many believe that it is. So why is middleman not a viable business strategy? Number one, it does not promote a robust competitive advantage strategy. It's not based on real good, strong business principle and business acumen. It's not. Now, I know many of the practitioners would debate me on that topic, but we can go toe to toe in debate, and I can prove again and again and again why this is not an effective strategy. No major business worth its salt. Pick your favorite. Pick your favorite manufacturing company. Pick your favorite retail company. Even pick your favorite fast food company. None of those companies that you spend serious money with would ever even consider adopting a middleman approach. Just it builds no real brand awareness or brand value in the business. And I'm gonna just leave that alone. So number one, middleman is not a viable business strategy, but many believe that it is. The middleman strategy it discourages the development of differentiated or focused business models. I have yet to find a niche brand that embraces middleman. And we know how we create economic value and prosperity. There has to be some proprietary way of you doing what you're doing. And that leads me to my next point. Practitioners lack a deep understanding of customer requirements when they implement the middleman strategy. Their understanding of the customer is usually confined to what's outlined in Section C of the RFP document. Section C, for many of you guys that may know, that is your statement of work, and that is the only information they have. But you know as well as I do, if you understand this space, the government cannot put all of its pain points and all of its hot buttons and corporate culture. All of that is not encapsulated and explained in a statement of work or a performance work statement. So you need, in order to develop that true customer intimacy, you have to be able to look behind the statement of work and develop customer intimacy. But a lot of the middleman strategies are actually reactive and not proactive. But let me keep moving. The middleman strategy puts practitioners in an inferior power position due to, number one, poor pricing. Does not account for all the cost. Oftentimes you'll see the practitioners robbing Peter to pay Paul, quite frankly, because the profitability simply is not there. I will never understand for the life of me why someone would do middleman strategy and not make bulk of the profits and outsource the large majority to suppliers. I would never understand this. I don't understand why you take on all the risk of being a prime with minimum profitability, while over-reliance and over-dependence on your subcontractors. The middleman strategy lacks robust program management methodology. It does not effectively manage the cost, schedule, performance, or quality of its contracts. It does not. That's why you hear many of them say, I got 25 contracts. I don't know how you effectively manage 25 contracts and you are a solopreneur. I don't know how you do that effectively and sustain it over the long term. And mind you, for pennies on the dollar. Many of the people who are doing middleman would be better suited to keep working, get a second job, or to work overtime on their jobs. The amount of profit they're making for the extra headache and stress they're taking on, quite frankly, is not worth it. And you should abandon that practice immediately. And I can give you case study after case study. If we do if we peruse through my Instagram and see the horror stories that are consistently hitting my inbox from folks who have tried this store and tried this methodology, because the marketing is amazing. I cannot even knock it. The marketing is amazing, and the strategy seems very appealing, but the long-term execution is just non-existent, to say the least. But as they say, this is a fairly new phenomenon, and time will tell. Okay. Let me move on to number 2. We're talking about avoiding common government contracting misconceptions. Number 2, government contracting is not a get-rich-quick scheme, although many believe that it is because of the prevalence of marketing and advertising in this space. It's a great space, by the way. And the marketing is warranted because it's a tremendous opportunity for some financial game changing. However, I normally tell service-based businesses, it's going to probably take you 18 to 24 months to learn this space well. It does not mean that you can't have success sooner, but to really get your arms around this space, it takes time. It takes time to develop a competitive advantage. It takes time to develop your marketing artifacts and your messaging. It takes time to identify stakeholders, to engage those stakeholders, and to manage those stakeholders effectively. You need to also be aware of the legal implications. Also, you need to develop your effective pricing techniques, understand program management and performance, quality, and then you need to take all of that and refine it into a repeatable process. And that's one of the things I think we do very well here at 8-Figure GovCon. It's one of the things we focus on, all of the things I just mentioned in our 8-Figure Government Contracting Mastery 5X program bundle. So if you're really serious about the space, definitely strongly consider joining our program. But let me keep moving on. If you're in the product space, it's about a 12 to 18 month learning curve. You got to understand the difference between resellers, distributors, and channel partner progression. You need to understand how to develop an effective sales pipeline. You need to establish and maintain relationships with strategic partners. You need to also think about how are you going to establish alternative finance relationships, including equipment financing relationships, trade lines, and all the other financing mechanisms available in this space. Everyone does not have great credit. I understand that. I recognize our students come from diversity of backgrounds. Everyone doesn't have an abundance of money lying around to jumpstart their product business in the government contracting space. So if that is not the case, it's going to take you time to develop those financing relationships necessary to supply product. Next, you got to establish your pricing policies. How are you going to establish pricing? What is your pricing based on? How big is the team? Do you have overhead? Do you have fringe? Do you have, well, you do have some direct labor. Do you have G&A? And what is the profit? These are things that need to be considered and need to be put some forethought into as you develop your strategy for how you're going to do pricing. There is a multi-billion-dollar product company. I'm not going to call the name on this video, but there's a multi-billion-dollar pricing company, but they've been around for about 20 years. And their sales just in the federal space, last time I checked, was around $450 million. Now, one of the ways they're doing it, they're not just drop shipping. They created a whole new office complex that allows vendors to come in, or government agencies and buyers in both the federal, state, and local space and commercial partners to come in and look at and test drive the products before they buy. They do primarily IT products, by the way. The test drive in a sandbox environment before they can try it before they buy it. Now, this is a multi-billion-dollar company. They've invested very heavily in their infrastructure. So I recognize you're not there yet, but what are you going to do other than just drop shipping a product? That's not going to be enough. What value are you going to insert within the process to create a value add to the federal government? Let me move on because I'm going to go down a rabbit trail. I can feel it coming on. You also need to do your stakeholder identification, your engagement, and your management. Now, the stakeholders you engage on the product side may look slightly different than the stakeholders you're engaging on the services side. But you also need to be mindful of quality, risk identification, and the management of said risk. A lot of what I'm talking about here is just strong business strategy, and we happen to lay government contracting on top. So when you are a government contractor, you are a business professional, a business entrepreneur first, and we're overlaying government contracting on top. You have to develop business chops. You have to develop your entrepreneurial skill set. And that is what I'm not seeing being pushed and promoted enough on social media, YouTube, and a lot of the marketing. So one of the things we work in our program, we really work to help you develop the business chops. And what I tell my students is once you learn this space, it's going to be very easy to move into other spaces because we're going to build a solid business foundation. Let me keep moving. Number 3, some people naively believe that government contracting is hard. It's not. It is not hard, but you have to learn to navigate the space. You cannot rush the learning process. We are all unique individuals. We all learn differently. We process information differently. Some of you guys are audio learners. Some of you guys are visual learners. Some of you guys learn by touching and feeling and getting your hands dirty in the process. But once you understand how you learn, then we have to embrace that learning to implement and execute. We have to implement and execute. But the biggest challenge, and I did a video on this talking about the language barrier, the biggest challenge that government contractors, new government contractors, those completely new to the space, have is they have to learn the new language. They have to learn the language of government contracting. So I hope that you are under mentorship that's going to help you learn and bridge the language gap, because there's definitely a language gap in government contracting. But again, I want to emphasize again that it is strong business principles, and we're layering government contracting on top. Now, I asked the question. People tell me government contracting is hard because it's not. There's a lot of moving pieces and parts, but none of this is difficult. But I asked the question, how long does it take you to master a sport? How long has little Bobby been playing baseball or basketball or football or golf or hockey or lacrosse, taking up martial arts, whether it's BJJ, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, or Taekwondo, NASCAR, softball, tennis, volleyball? You would not expect to start playing those sports and in 3 months to be an expert. Now, at 3 months, you're really getting the hang of things and you're probably getting your foundations down. But it amazes and astounds me how often I find new entrepreneurs who get frustrated because it takes them a year to really get comfortable in a new space. Anytime you learn anything, it takes time. When you were learning how the world works, which is what the goal of education is, by the way, I'm talking K through 12. The goal of education, and we can debate about how good the educational system works in the United States or whatever country you're from. We could debate about how good of a job it does. But the goal of the K through 12 education is to teach you how the world works. That's why you take social studies and geography and world history and economics in high school and civics. It's teaching you how the world works. It took you 12 years to learn how the world works. Some people still don't know how it works after 12 years. But it took many people 12 years to have a basic foundation of how the world works. But then folks come into these programs and think they're supposed to become millionaires in 4 months. Now, does it happen sometimes? Yes. But typically those people came into the space with some transferable skills and maybe some prior history and understanding about how government works. And most of the people who sprint through these programs and find quicker success compared to many of their peers have some understanding of how government works, but that's completely new to the mass majority of the world in this space. But business, I gave you a bunch of sports examples. Business is the ultimate sport. And the great thing about business, You don't have to quit when you get older. Here's some names I want to throw out. Jeff Bezos, Amazon. Bill Gates of Microsoft. Larry Ellison of Oracle. And I know now he's now the chief technology officer and no longer CEO and founder, still founder, but now working as chief technology officer. And then Elon Musk with SpaceX. These companies, you may not have known this, all of them are government contractors. The government, Amazon has AWS, Amazon Web Services. They sell to the federal government. Microsoft has the Microsoft Office suite, now with Teams and Azure, which is its cloud solution, government contractors. Larry Ellison sells huge Oracle subscriptions to the federal government. And oh, by the way, they recently bought Cerner, a healthcare company. They're all government contracting. And then Elon Musk with SpaceX has received prior government contracts with NASA. Now, we all learn differently, but government contracting is not hard. It's just a learning process. Moving on. Number 4, this is another misconception. Certifications are essential to success. Certifications are helpful, but they're not essential. There are a lot of companies out there who do not even qualify for some of these social economic statuses. But yet, a lot of these companies have risen to the forefront in their businesses. So you should not lead with your certification. You should not lead with I'm 8A or I'm SDVOSB or woman-owned small business or HubZone. Don't lead with your social economic status. That is not the sum total of your value. You lead with the value. Let me say this. You do not get to determine what's valuable. Your customers determine what's valuable based on the requirements that they have. When you're shopping for a new vehicle, you determine what's valuable and what you're willing to spend based on what your needs are and your budget and how well said product or service is going to meet your requirement. Same thing in the federal space. You never purchase a vehicle solely based on a green certification standard or it being energy wise. You based it more so on how well it got the job done. And it may have been an extra benefit if it was an energy save or if it was green. But in most cases, 9 out of 10 cases, that is not the basis or some certification or some governing body they're a part of. Most of the time, that's not the reason why you're making a buying decision. And the federal government and prime contractors are not exempt. Agencies and primes are not doing business based on the social economic status. Now, I know they have agency goals. And yes, I know there's public law that says large business shall do business with small business. I understand all of that. However, they're looking for qualified businesses first, with qualified business, with pricing that's consistent with the independent government estimate, and down there close to the bottom is the social economic status, because a lot of opportunities are small business, which is a restricted category. It's not full and open. And then you got further permutations of small business: 8A, HubZone, woman-owned small business, SDVOSB. But agencies have needs, and you are being evaluated based on how well you fulfill your requirements. You're not being judged based on your competitor. You're being judged based on how well your solution speaks to the needs or the requirements of said customer or end customer. You're not being compared against your competitors. You're being judged based on how well you meet the requirements of that customer. And that's going to be outlined in Section M of your RFP documents, where they're going to talk about the evaluation criteria, the rubric by which you're being judged again. And just like in class, they put out the requirement, they put out the rubric or the measurement instrument, and he with the highest grade at the end is deemed the winner. So you all start out with a perfect. And as they score you against that rubric, they start removing points. And at the end of the evaluation process, the company with the highest score wins. I've oversimplified it, but in a nutshell, that's how it works. And then last but not least, A lack of formal education will not hinder your success. Some people believe you got to have formal education to win in the government contracting space. That's not true. It's not true. We're talking about common misconceptions. And whether you have formal education or not does not determine your success in this space. Now, I know I have a bunch of degrees, but many of the world's billionaires dropped out of college. College simply demonstrates to an employer that you know how to follow instructions, learn, and persevere. That's all it communicates. Now, college may serve as a vetting process for some perceived upper echelon jobs like investment banking, management consulting, private equity, venture capital. They do have target schools. And if you go to those target schools, you have a higher chance of breaking into some of these career fields. And it does not mean that if you didn't go to a target school like a Harvard or Stanford or Yale or Duke or Emory or some of these schools that have reps that pull most of their talent from these schools, it doesn't mean you won't still break into some of these career fields. But there are some schools that serve as a vetting process for some industries. I get that. But the biggest thing is you should subscribe, like I do, to lifelong learning. Now, lifelong learning could be through formal education and or informal education. So formal education, what am I talking about? Certification programs, conferences, executive education. A lot of our higher education places have executive ed. You can go and take a course at a major university, Columbia Business School or MIT Sloan or wherever, George Washington. Technical and trade schools. These are your 2-year vocational schools. I'm talking about formal education. And then, of course, your universities and colleges, liberal arts schools, depending on what you're trying to do. Now, you got informal education. So you should be learning formally and informally. One is not better than another. You got to find what suits your needs. Now, informal education might look like 8-figure govcon. We teach new and seasoned entrepreneurs how to take their business ideas and find success in the government contracting environment. It could look like Amazon for your books. Amazon has tons of books, self-help, business, investing, whatever your thing is. Coaching programs like our coaching program. You got Google. You can Google, put keywords in a Google search or whatever your preferred browser is, Firefox, Brave, Bing, use a search engine. Then you have these MOOCs, which are massive online open courses. These are where universities have courses that are free, and you can go and you can watch these free courses. Now, you won't get credit for it. You won't get a degree, but you can go and get the knowledge. You can acquire knowledge. You got mentorship programs, trade associations, YouTube, etc. There's a ton of ways to make sure that you continue learning, and we all should be lifetime learners. We should all be learning and evolving and growing in hopes of getting better. You know, I used to hear my mother say, readers are leaders. She didn't say going to college made you a leader. She said readers are leaders. So whether that's formal or informal education or a hybrid combination does not matter to me, but I need you to keep learning. So in summary, here are the 5 assumptions that we have spoke to in this video. Middleman is not a viable business strategy. So please abandon that process as soon as possible. Number 2, government contracting is not a get-rich-quick scheme. I call it get-rich-slow. Government contracting will create financial transformation, but you're going to have to work at it just like you work at everything else. It takes time, but the benefits can be immense. Number 3, government contracting is not hard, but many believe it is. You just got to find a process and work the process. And it's going to be extremely important to align yourself with a coaching program like ours that can assist you in overcoming that hurdle. Number 4, certifications are not essential for success. They're not essential for success. They can help. They do not pave the way. And let me say this, they do not guarantee contract awards. They do not. That is a lie. That is certification companies marketing you, trying to get your dollars. I'm not saying you shouldn't get a certification, but what I am saying is certifications alone do not guarantee success. And then last but not least, lack of formal education will not hinder your success. Even though many people tell me, hey Kurt, I don't have a college education. Does not matter. Can you continue the craft and art of learning? And once you learn, can you implement and execute based on those learning objectives? But that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for tuning in. And I want you to go back and watch some of my later videos, my earlier videos. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next YouTube installment. And I look forward to seeing you at the top. Until next time.